Dear readers, imagine this. You spend your days walking on eggshells, tirelessly seeking approval, bending over backward to please others, and neglecting your own needs, hopes, and desires. Your happiness is tethered to someone else's moods, their opinions, their acceptance. You give, you sacrifice, you endure. But at what cost? If any of this resonates with you, if you've ever felt like you've lost yourself in the service of someone else's well-being, then you, my friend, are not alone. And more importantly, you have arrived at the right place. Welcome to Codependency for Dummies by Darlene Lancer, a beacon of wisdom, a guiding light through the murky waters of codependency. This is not just a book. It is a revelation, a roadmap, a call to reclaim your life and rediscover the most important person in your world, you. Codependency is more than just a word. It is an experience that millions endure in silence. It manifests in relationships where love is overshadowed by control, where generosity turns into obligation, and where boundaries are blurred until they disappear altogether. It is the quiet surrender of self-worth in exchange for validation, the invisible chains of guilt and responsibility that keep you tethered to dysfunction. But here's the truth that many never hear. You were not born to be imprisoned by the expectations of others. You were not created to constantly pour from an empty cup, to love at the expense of your own well-being. Codependency for Dummies is here to remind you that you have a choice. It is here to hand you the keys to break free. In these pages, Darlene Lancer offers more than just theories and definitions. She provides tools, strategies, and the unwavering support of someone who truly understands. She peels back the layers of codependency, exposing its roots, its impact, and, most importantly, the way forward. Through self-awareness, boundary setting, and emotional healing, you will come to see that your worth is not dependent on what you do for others, but on who you inherently are. So, I invite you now to take a deep breath and make a commitment, not to anyone else, but to yourself. A commitment to understanding, to growth, to self-respect. A commitment to breaking free from the cycle that has held you captive for too long. This book is more than an exploration. It is an invitation to step into your own power and finally take your life back. Are you ready? Then let us begin. Part 1 Summary of Codependency for Dummies by Darlene Lancer. Dear readers, have you ever found yourself giving so much to someone that you feel like you're disappearing? Have you ever sacrificed your own needs, your happiness, and even your identity to keep a relationship alive, only to feel drained, unappreciated, and empty? If so, you are not alone. And today, we embark on a deep and transformative journey into the world of codependency, a hidden force that controls the lives of millions, keeping them trapped in cycles of self-sacrifice, emotional turmoil, and unfulfilled relationships. Darlene Lancer's Codependency for Dummies is not just another self-help book. It is a mirror that reflects the invisible chains we place on ourselves. It exposes the behaviors that keep us bound, and more importantly, it provides the keys to freedom. Part 1 of this book is an eye-opener, a revelation that forces us to question what we thought we knew about love, self-worth, and emotional independence. Let us begin. Chapter 1. What is codependency? Imagine a puppet whose strings are controlled by someone else. That puppet moves, bends, and dances, not by its own will, but by the hand of another. This, my friends, is the essence of codependency. Darlene Lancer begins by unraveling the mystery of this condition, one that is not just about relationships, but about identity itself. Codependency is a deep emotional reliance on others for approval, self-worth, and even a sense of existence. It is when your happiness depends not on you, but on how others feel about you. It is when your boundaries are so blurred that you no longer know where you end and the other person begins. She explains that codependency often stems from childhood experiences, perhaps growing up in a dysfunctional family with parents who are emotionally unavailable, overly controlling, or even neglectful. In such environments, children learn that love must be earned through self-sacrifice. They become caretakers, pleasers, and fixers, placing the needs of others above their own because deep inside, they believe that is the only way to be loved. But this is a lie, a painful, destructive lie. And the first step to breaking free is to recognize it. Chapter 2: Signs and Symptoms of Codependency. How do you know if you are codependent? How do you know if the relationships you are in, whether romantic, familial, or even friendships, are built on unhealthy patterns? Lancer lays it all out. She describes the classic signs: people-pleasing to the point of exhaustion, fear of abandonment, making you tolerate mistreatment, difficulty saying no, even when it hurts you, constant guilt, even when you've done nothing wrong, trying to fix or save others, believing their happiness is your responsibility. She doesn't just describe these behaviors. She makes you feel them. You recognize yourself in her words. You remember all the times you've given more than you should, all the moments you've ignored your own pain to keep someone else comfortable. And then, she asks the most important question of all. Why? Why do we do this to ourselves? Why do we allow our needs, our voices, and our worth to disappear into the shadows of someone else's life? Chapter 3: The Origins of Codependency. How did we get here? Now, we turn to the past because understanding the roots of codependency is crucial to healing. Lancer takes us back to our childhoods, our families, and the silent lessons we absorbed when we were too young to even understand. Codependency is not something we choose. It is something we inherit. It is passed down through generations, embedded in the fabric of dysfunctional families. If you grew up in a household where love was conditional, based on how well you behaved or pleased others, your emotions were dismissed, ignored, or punished. You were forced to take care of others at the expense of your own needs. You felt responsible for keeping the peace, even when it hurt you. Then you, like so many others, were trained to be codependent before you even knew what the word meant. Lancer introduces us to the concept of toxic shame, the deep-seated belief that there is something inherently wrong with us. This shame fuels the need to prove our worth through self-sacrifice. It makes us believe that love must be earned, that setting boundaries is selfish, and that prioritizing ourselves is wrong. But let me tell you something, it is not wrong. It is necessary. And the first step toward reclaiming your life is to recognize that you deserve love, not for what you do, but for who you are. Chapter 4: The Codependency Cycle, Trapped in Unhealthy Patterns. Now that we know where codependency comes from, Lancer shows us how it plays out in real life. Codependency is not just a feeling, it is a cycle. A never-ending loop of emotional highs and devastating lows. The pattern is predictable. 1. The caretaking stage: you overgive, oversacrifice, and take on the burdens of others, believing this will bring love and security. 2. The resentment stage: you start feeling drained, unappreciated, and exhausted, but you suppress your feelings out of guilt. 3. The crisis stage: the weight of it all becomes unbearable. You lash out, break down, or shut down completely. 4. The guilt stage: afraid of losing the relationship, you apologize, minimize your needs, and start the cycle all over again. Sound familiar? This is why codependency is so hard to escape. It keeps you trapped in a loop of seeking validation, feeling unworthy, and then desperately trying to earn love again. But here's the good news. This cycle can be broken. Chapter 5: Breaking the Illusion. Why you are more than enough. This is where the revelation begins. Lancer tells us something radical, something life-changing. You are already enough. You don't have to prove your worth through sacrifice. You don't have to earn love through suffering. You don't have to save anyone to deserve happiness. She dismantles the core myths of codependency, teaching us that you are not responsible for other people's happiness. Love should never require you to lose yourself. Setting boundaries is not selfish, it is essential. Your needs, your feelings, and your dreams matter. This is the beginning of freedom. This is the moment where we stop being puppets and start cutting the strings. Conclusion: the awakening begins. Part 1 of Codependency for Dummies is not just an introduction, it is an awakening. It holds up a mirror and forces us to see ourselves, perhaps for the first time. It shakes us, challenges us, and makes us question everything we thought we knew about love, sacrifice, and self-worth. But most importantly, it gives us hope. Because codependency is not a life sentence. It is a pattern that can be broken. And my friends, in the next part of this journey, we will learn exactly how to do just that. So, stay with me. Stay engaged. Because the road to healing has only just begun. And, trust me, it is worth it. Part 2 Summary. Dear readers, we have uncovered the truth about codependency. We have seen the invisible chains that bind us, the patterns that keep us trapped, and the deep wounds that have shaped our lives. But now, the time for awareness alone is over. Now, we step into the battlefield of transformation. In Part 2 of Codependency for Dummies, Darlene Lancer hands us the weapons we need, the tools to break free, the wisdom to reclaim our power, and the courage to stand in our own light. This is the part where we stop surviving and start thriving. This is where healing begins. Are you ready? Then let's dive in. Chapter 6: The Power of Self-Awareness. Seeing yourself clearly. If you want to break free from codependency, you must first see yourself clearly. Not as someone who is only valuable when giving, not as someone who must earn love, but as a whole and complete individual. Lancer teaches us that self-awareness is the foundation of healing. We must learn to identify our emotions, recognize our patterns, and become conscious of how we react in relationships. She introduces powerful questions that shake us to our core. Do I put others' needs ahead of my own always? Do I feel guilty when I say no? Do I avoid conflict, even at the cost of my own happiness? Am I afraid that if I stop giving, people will stop loving me? These are not just questions. They are revelations. They expose the truth we've been avoiding. We have been living for others, and in doing so, we have lost ourselves. But awareness alone is not enough. Now we must act. Chapter 7: Boundaries, the Armor of Emotional Freedom. Picture a castle without walls, open to anyone who wishes to enter. That is what life is like without boundaries. Lancer teaches us that setting boundaries is not about pushing people away. It is about protecting ourselves. It is about saying, I matter too. She introduces 3 key types of boundaries. 1. Physical boundaries. Who gets to enter your space? How do you protect your body, your time, and your personal environment? 2. Emotional boundaries. Are you taking on emotions that are not yours? Are you absorbing other people's pain as your own? 3. Verbal boundaries. Do you say yes when you want to say no? Do you remain silent when you should speak up? But here's the truth. Setting boundaries is terrifying at first.
Why?
Because we fear rejection. We fear losing people. We fear being seen as selfish. But let me tell you something. The people who truly love you will respect your boundaries. And those who don't, they were only there for what you could give them. It is time to choose yourself. It is time to build your walls, not to keep love out, but to keep toxicity from getting in. Chapter 8: The Art of Detachment, Releasing Control. One of the hardest truths we must face is this: we cannot save anyone but ourselves. For too long, we have believed that if we just love harder, try more, sacrifice more, we can fix people. We can change them. We can make them happy. But Lancer teaches us a crucial lesson. Attachment to control is an illusion. We cannot control others' choices, actions, or emotions. The only thing we can control is ourselves. Detachment is not abandonment. It is not coldness. It is freedom. It is saying, I love you, but your happiness is not my responsibility. I care about you, but I will not lose myself to save you. I will help you, but I will not rescue you. This is a radical shift. It feels unnatural at first. But the moment we let go of control, we gain something even greater: inner peace. Chapter 9. Reclaiming Your Self-Worth, The Journey Back to You. At the core of codependency is a deep and painful wound, the belief that we are not enough. Lancer tells us that true healing is not about fixing ourselves, because we were never broken. It is about rediscovering who we were before the world told us we had to prove our worth. She gives us tools to rebuild our self-esteem. Affirmations, speaking words of self-love into existence. Instead of, "I am not enough," we say, "I am worthy just as I am." Journaling, writing down our true feelings, our forgotten dreams, our buried desires. Self-care, doing things for ourselves, not because they please others, but because they bring us joy. This is not selfish. This is survival. We must unlearn the lie that we are only valuable when giving to others. Because the truth is, we are valuable simply because we exist. Chapter 10. The Courage to Be Alone, Facing the Fear of Independence. For many of us, the thought of being alone is terrifying. Silence feels like emptiness. Space feels like abandonment. But Lancer asks us to consider this. What if being alone is not loneliness? What if it is freedom? She encourages us to take time away from relationships, to sit with ourselves, to learn who we are without anyone else defining us. Because here's the truth, until we learn to be happy alone, we will never be truly happy in a relationship. If we do not love ourselves, we will keep seeking love from people who cannot give it to us. Solitude is not a punishment. It is a gift. It is the space where we finally meet ourselves again. Chapter 11. The Path Forward, Creating Healthy Relationships. Now that we have broken the chains of codependency, how do we build something better? How do we create relationships that are based on mutual respect, balance, and love, without self-sacrifice? Lancer lays out the pillars of a healthy relationship. 1. Mutual respect. You are equals. Your needs matter just as much as theirs. 2. Honest communication. You say what you mean. No more walking on eggshells. 3. Emotional independence. You love them, but you do not need them to feel whole. 4. Boundaries that are honored. You give and receive love without losing yourself. This is the kind of love we deserve. This is the kind of love we must demand. And if someone cannot give it to us, then we must walk away, not out of anger, but out of self-respect. Conclusion. The beginning of a new life. My friends, we have walked through fire. We have faced hard truths, confronted deep wounds, and unlearned the lies that kept us small. But now we stand on the other side. No longer puppets. No longer controlled by fear, guilt, or the need to prove our worth. We are free. And from this day forward, we choose ourselves. Because we are enough. We always were. And now? Now we finally believe it. Part 3 Summary. Dear readers, we have come a long way. We have ripped away the veil of codependency, exposed the truth of our struggles, and embraced the first steps toward healing. We have set boundaries, reclaimed our self-worth, and learned to detach from the need to control others. But the journey does not end here. In this final part of Codependency for Dummies, Darlene Lancer takes us beyond awareness and healing. She leads us into the world as our new selves, stronger, freer, and ready to embrace relationships that are built on love, not self-sacrifice. This is the final transformation. This is where we step into our power. Are you ready? Then let's begin. Chapter 12. Overcoming Shame, Releasing the Weight of the Past.
Shame.
It is the silent force that has ruled our lives. It is the voice that whispers, "You are not enough." The weight that tells us we are broken, that we must prove our worth, that love is something we must earn. But let me tell you this, shame is a liar. Lancer explains that shame is not who we are. It is something we were taught, by critical parents, by rejection, by a world that made us feel unworthy. And just as it was learned, it can be unlearned. How do we do this? 1. We stop identifying with our past. You made mistakes?
So what?
You are not your mistakes. You were treated poorly? That says more about them than it does about you. 2. We challenge our inner critic. That voice that says, I'm not good enough. That is not your voice. It is the voice of your past. Replace it with the truth. I am worthy just as I am. 3. We practice radical self-compassion. If you would never speak cruelly to a friend, why do you speak that way to yourself? Shame has held us captive for too long. But today? Today, we set it down and walk forward without it. Chapter 13. Healthy Communication. Speaking your truth with confidence. For too long, we have walked on eggshells. We have bitten our tongues. We have silenced our needs to keep the peace. But no more. Lancer teaches us that healthy communication is not about avoiding conflict. It is about expressing ourselves with clarity, confidence, and respect. She introduces the assertive communication model, a tool that allows us to speak our truth without fear, without guilt, and without apology. Instead of, I guess it's okay if you do that, even though I don't really like it, we say, I feel uncomfortable when that happens. I'd prefer if we did it differently. Instead of, I don't matter, do whatever you want, we say, I matter and my feelings deserve to be considered. Speaking up is not aggression. It is not selfishness. It is self-respect. And from now on, we will never silence ourselves again. Chapter 14. Ending Toxic Relationships. Walking away with strength. Some relationships cannot be saved. That is a hard truth, but it is one we must face. Lancer tells us that if a relationship is built on manipulation, control, or emotional neglect, it is not our job to fix it. It is our job to walk away. But here's the problem. Codependents struggle with letting go. We want to fix. We want to heal. We tell ourselves, if I just love them more, they will change. But love cannot change someone who does not want to change. So, how do we end toxic relationships? 1. We accept reality. No more excuses. No more, maybe they'll change. If they have shown us who they are, we believe them. 2. We let go of guilt. Leaving is not betrayal. It is survival. 3. We create space for real love. By walking away, we open the door for relationships that are healthy, balanced, and fulfilling. It is time to stop clinging to relationships that drain us. It is time to choose peace over pain. Chapter 15. Cultivating Healthy Love. Relationships that heal instead of hurt. Now that we have walked away from toxicity, what comes next? Lancer teaches us what healthy love really looks like. It is not dependency. We do not need someone to complete us. We are already whole. It is not control. We do not need to fix them. They are responsible for their own life. It is not fear. We do not stay because we are afraid to be alone. We stay because it brings us joy. A healthy relationship is a partnership of equals, built on mutual respect, open communication, and emotional independence. And the moment we experience this kind of love, we realize something powerful. We were never asking for too much. We were just asking the wrong people. Chapter 16. Embracing Your New Life, the Future of Freedom. Now, we arrive at the final step, the final transformation. We are no longer trapped. We are no longer prisoners of codependency. We are free. Lancer reminds us that healing is not a one-time event. It is a lifelong process. But the difference now? We have the tools. We know how to set boundaries without guilt, communicate with strength, choose ourselves without apology, love without losing who we are. This is not the end of our journey. It is the beginning of a life we never thought possible, one where we are no longer defined by others, but by our own joy, our own choices, and our own power. And so, my friends, I ask you, are you ready? Are you ready to walk forward with confidence, with self-respect, with love, not just for others, but for yourself? Because the moment you decide to, the moment you take that first step, you are already free. Final words. With that, we conclude our journey through Codependency for Dummies by Darlene Lancer. But this is not just a book summary. This is a call to action. No more shrinking. No more proving. No more waiting for someone else to give us permission to live fully. We are enough. We always were.
And now?
Now we know it. Let us go forward and live as the strong, independent, and worthy people we were always meant to be. Thanks for listening to Book Buzz reviews and summaries. Please like, subscribe, and click the bell icon to get new video updates.